Everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my next video. Today is Friday, so that means we got another Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 description video. And guess what? Today's is going to be a Prestige Class description on the Deepwarden. So the Deepwarden we got here, it's that guy right there. So yeah, the Deepwarden, basically, he is a... he's the guardian for the Dwarven cities from natural threats from underground. Not so much from like, hey, this army's going to be marching on you. No, they don't mess with those guys. They got their own Dwarven defenders and they got their own guys for that. The Deepwardens are a completely different story. Because see how the dwarves work is they're always tunneling under the ground, so, they're bound to run into dangerous monsters and whatnot down there. So, the Deepwardens are down, investigating all their tunnels that, aren't being used so much, and, they're making sure that the monsters under there aren't going to go after the cities. They're keeping things safe. They're the first line of defense against that threat, because the dwarves, they make a lot of enemies. That's just how dwarves are. I mean, they really do. A lot of people hate dwarves. They don't have a lot of friends, and they got a lot of enemies. Humans don't particularly like dwarves, Elves hate them. It's a mutual hate, but, no one really likes dwarves that much. I guess gnomes kind of, but, dwarves are just kind of... there's a reason they have a -2 charisma. They're not very well liked. But anyway, so the Deepwarden, they protect them against, natural threats from underneath. They get a ton of crazy stuff, like, this is from the Races of Stone, by the way. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. Basically, to become a Deepwarden, what you need is a base attack bonus of 5. Not too particularly difficult. Definitely would recommend a melee class, like a barbarian or a fighter. Probably a fighter, since you have to be a dwarf to do this. And you need 5 skills in each of the following: climb, heal, jump, knowledge, dungeoneering, and survival. So that's kind of a lot of skills. Fighters aren't very skillful, so it's going to be hard to get that kind of rankage in that many of them. You might have to multi-class a little, so it's kind of a hard one to get into. You might have to take like a level or 2 of cleric maybe to try and get like the heal. You might have to do a little bit of multi-classing. Let's see, heals, climb you can get easily enough with survival. Knowledge, engineering. I think clerics probably have that. If not, you could always go wizard. But I think clerics have that. Survival, 5 ranks. You might want to, I don't know, maybe go ranger for that or something. You might need to do a bit of multi-classing to get into this, or just take a bunch of... 5 ranks isn't that bad, so... it really just depends, but with the, 2+ int that fighters get, it's going to be hard to get into this as a pure fighter. But it is best suited for a pure fighter. Maybe you just go more levels. That's an option too. It also requires the feat endurance. So not a ton of requirements, but the ones they have, they don't fit too well. So it's a little tricky to get into this class. It is and it isn't. So what does it get? Well, it has a good base attack bonus. It gets it actually gets a D12 hit dice, which is really nice. There's no class that has better than a D12 hit dice. There's a few that tie it, like Barbarian, and there's a few others as well. Mostly like all the Barbarian one, Prestige, and all the Barbarian type classes. Most of them have a D12, and there's a few others. Like a lot of the Dwarf Prestiges have that. I think the Dwarven Defender probably does. I got a video on that. You can check that out. But anyways, they get Trap Sense, which is interesting. Stone Warden, I forget what that one does. That one's really awesome. It lets them use their Constitution instead of their Dex for AC, which is really nice, especially for a dwarf. They get Animal Messenger, which basically lets them have a tiny animal that they can send messages with. Then they get Uncanny Dodge, which is unusual. Stubborn mind, which basically makes them resistant to will save. It basically, if they get hit by a mind-altering effect, they can, and they fail their will save, the next turn they can do it again and, basically break out of it. They can only do it once though, but and even under that situation, they're still hit by it for that turn. Like, so they get hit by something that makes them act a way that they normally wouldn't. Well, they're still going to be acting that wrong way for a full turn, but they'll break out of it instead of be stuck in it for however long the spell ends up lasting. They get sending, which lets them send messages up to 25 words to someone that they're familiar with, well, a creature that they're familiar with. But I'm pretty sure that can include a person too. So they the leader of the dwarf city that they're protecting. So basically, they run into danger. It's like, hey, there's danger here. So depending on how far away they are, basically it's based off of spell level and everything. Caster level is based off of the Deepwarden level, so I'm pretty sure that's going to affect the distance it can travel. So they're going to have to, it may or may not work depending on how close they are. Let's see, Swift Tracker. Basically, they can track at full speed. Like, they can just be walking along. They don't have to slow down to track, and they can, hustle and track with only half the penalty. Improved Uncanny Dodge. Uncanny Dodge, that makes it hard for them to lose their AC bonus, which is nice. Improved Uncanny Dodge is even better because now it helps with flanking as well. Greater Animal Messenger, basically now they can do small instead of tiny animals, and that's really it. There's not a lot to this class. It's kind of a simple one, but it's definitely it's not a bad one. Fighters are incredibly simple, and they're pretty potent class. Simple doesn't not mean bad by any sense. It just means simple. They're easy to figure out, so it's definitely a decent class to go into, especially if you're a newer player and you want to try out a prestige class. It's not a bad option for that because it's simple, and fighter's kind of the base class you're generally want to go with. So maybe a couple levels of cleric to go with it, which actually wouldn't be bad. Especially seeing as these guys are often solo characters. A fighter going solo, not so great, but at a couple level cleric, a level or two of cleric, it helps out a lot just because of the way healing works in the game. Generally, you only heal 1 damage per hit dice per day, which is really low. You could be, you get into a serious battle and lose, half your health, and it's going to take you probably a week or two to get back up to full. Not so good, especially with a D12 hit dice like that. A dwarf with a D12 hit dice and a huge they're going to be out for a while before they get back to full health. But you put a level or two of cleric, bam, you can use magical healing and speed that up exponentially. You can go so much faster with magic healing. Just a couple. 1d8 plus caster level per day of healing. That with 2 levels, you're looking at an average of 6. Plus, how many spells you're going to get? 2 or 3. So that's 8. 18 or so plus your first level. You could get a lot, heal way, 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 way faster than you could otherwise. So that's definitely, not a bad option for the Deepwarden. Now, Deepwarden as a player option, well, they're generally stick with the tunnels. So it's going to be hard to come up with a backstory for how did this character become a Deepwarden, and why is he adventuring on the surface now? Why would he do that? Generally, Deepwardens, that's not their thing. So I don't know. You have to come up with something for that, or maybe it's just an underground adventure that. The adventure is solely hey, we're investigating these deep dwarven tunnels. Great, Deepwarden's perfect for that. That would be a great option if that was the case. Or maybe you're just a DM and you're trying to come up with an NPC and your group's doing that, well, throw a Deepwarden to be their guide. That's actually a really great idea. So, yeah. Anyways, if you guys got anything else you want to share about Deepwardens, I'd love to hear about it. Just leave a comment down below, and I'll definitely respond for as long as I'm able. And, if this channel blows up, I'm not going to be able to respond to everything, but until then, I'm going to respond to every comment. Yeah, so I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below. If you like the video, definitely consider sharing it with your friends. And if you're new to this channel and you're not a subscriber yet, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button, because I make another one of these videos every Friday teaching you about another prestige class or race from one of the various books. I've already got them on all the stuff out of the core books, so I'm just doing straight supplements now, because like I said, I've exhausted the core books. So yeah, definitely hit the subscribe button to get better access to all that. If you want to learn more about D&D, and yeah. But anyways, I'm Mitch. I'll be seeing you.